A recent question I received sounds like this. What do you do with the false guilt when you know you don't have the capacity, but still want to be there for others? Others might feel that you don't want to be there for them, but that might not be true. That is a good question. A lot of people probably deal with this. Have you ever dealt with this? Feeling guilty because you're realizing you just don't have the capacity to help someone or help in the way that they're asking. You have already expended just physically you're exhausted, relationally, emotionally, etc. You want to say no, it's difficult, and then you're feeling guilty that you do say no. In that guilt, you're thinking what other people might be thinking about you or how they might be hurt. That others might feel that you don't want to be there for them, is what this question asks. Here's a question I have. What more is happening inside of you as you start to feel that guilt? Could it actually be a sense of shame? I'm actually a bad person. Could it be I don't feel okay if somebody else doesn't feel okay? So it's really difficult for me to take care of myself if it leaves somebody else without getting the help that they asked for. Could it be that it's difficult to feel the discomfort of saying no and taking care of yourself? When I hear this question, the term false guilt kind of trips me up a little bit because, yes, it's something else that's going on. It's like these words, even together, false guilt, it's like an indication. It's not really guilty because I'm not guilty. If you don't have the capacity to give to someone else, it's not a condemnation, something to be guilty of. It's not a sin or the wrong thing to do if you can't or it just doesn't work for you. It is okay to say no and to set limits. What actually isn't okay is when we assume what other people think, when we assume that we are the only people that can help, when we assume that we are responsible to be the source of help for everybody else, that keeps us in a very unhealthy place. We are responsible for our own lives. And when we start to assume what someone else is thinking or that they cannot get through their situation unless we save them, save the day by helping in the way that they ask, then we're kind of crossing over into their territory. If we want to prevent someone from feeling consequences, if they have poor planning and then they expect us to do something for them and we've already planned and done all kinds of other things, it can be really difficult to say no and to say, I'm sorry, that doesn't work for me. If we feel responsible that we have to resolve it for them, or they try to make us feel responsible, they try to put the responsibility on us. So the question, how do we deal with that guilt? I think comes down to first identifying what else is going on with me. What am I thinking and feeling? That telling me something about myself that isn't true? Is it putting responsibility on me for something that's not my responsibility? Or am I feeling guilty because I depleted myself in all kinds of activities and I knew this person was going to need my help? And like, I'm using that as an example of the guilt being there for something other than just that person asking and you don't have the capacity to be there for them at that time. That pause to reflect and notice more of the thoughts and the feelings that go with it can be really helpful. So, one is noticing that, and then taking those thoughts and those feelings and that awareness that you're experiencing to God, asking God to speak to it, diving a little bit further. In the growth community, I talk about the growth path. And the growth path is when we start to have an awareness about something, we're moving along a growth path, or we're not. We're going the opposite direction, right? If we deny the things that we become aware of, it gets shoved underneath the surface, and that kind of can live in our body. They can cause all kinds of different problems. But the growth path takes that awareness and moves it down the line to where it becomes new healthy patterns so that we start operating from a core sense of who God designed us to be. Awareness is the first one. And once you have an awareness, I'm having these thoughts, you're starting here. Okay, this false guilt is coming up. What do I do with that? The next step is acknowledging it. This guilt is coming up. It's literally just taking an additional step to be more intentional, to let that awareness not slip back into, kind of like our subconscious where we're just like trying to keep it at bay, but to acknowledge, okay, it's happening. And we do this with curiosity, with noticing, and a sense of just curiosity and compassion for what's happening so that it can be attended to. Acknowledging that it's there, what those thoughts are, what the feelings are, what's happening in my body, what might be related to it. Maybe this situation reminds me or puts a feeling in me that is reminiscent of a time when I was really young, or a time when I was in school or at another environment, etc. The awareness moves into the acknowledgement and moves into attending. Once we have that awareness and acknowledge what's happening, then we can attend to it. We need a little more information about what is happening. And I love when we bring it before God and practice getting connected to hearing God speak to our own hearts. The Spirit can help us identify this is a voice of condemnation, for example, from someone else in the past. Or this is a voice of condemnation that the enemy keeps playing over and over, or that you've heard from so many different people, or you've played over and over in your mind, but it's not my heart for you. The experience with God and hearing from Him can give us a sense of guidance and comfort and courage to be able to take more steps with this information, this awareness that we have. If, for example, in a scenario, somebody asks for me to help them, I just can't. I don't have the energy to do that today. I'm already depleted from other things that I had to do, etc. And that guilt is coming up. I might notice, for example, in me, my stomach starts to churn. My shoulders are weighing down. I'm noticing that I feel guilty, but I'm actually feeling shame. I'm feeling bad. I feel rejected because if I don't say yes, then the other person may treat me like I've been treated in the past. And maybe that's true, maybe it's not. But I'm paying attention now to these different things that I'm noticing. Then I notice that this is the pattern in my life, that I frequently feel these things. I can bring that before God and ask God to speak to me about that, and learn tips and healthy ways of navigating that discomfort, the things that come up, so that I can respond differently or respond well, start saying no when I need to without feeling the guilt, and having new experiences that start to shift things inside my body so that my stomach doesn't get all upset. That may look like different exercises that work with our nervous system and our brain. It may include prayer and pausing and asking God to speak so that our systems are calmed that way. It may include thought processes or celebrations after taking a hard step of saying no to another person, noticing that it doesn't feel good and all this is coming up, but I'm okay. I made it to the other side. I can breathe. Because part of your brain may be feeling so wrapped up, all that tension and the discomfort that's coming up. There's some level of a sense of danger happening in the brain. I can't make it through. Or like, I just don't know what to do. I don't have the resources. And when you start to respond in different ways, it can provide signals to the brain and the body that you can get through and that you can have a different experience on the other side. Maybe it doesn't feel great yet, but you made a decision that aligned with your values and you can celebrate that. It can be a process though. You may need new experiences many times over. You may benefit from therapy, EMDR, brain spotting. I'm a little bit familiar with learning some more about that. Eventually, we'll get trained in it. But the EMDR and brain spotting, well, let me talk about EMDR because that's what I know and that's what I practice with my therapy clients. It's powerful. It works with the brain and its connection to past experiences that still live in the body and the emotional part of the brain. So let's say every time someone asks you to do something and you need to say no, you just don't have the capacity to do it, but all this is getting stirred up inside of you. That's a pattern, right? Maybe you try these new activities. Maybe you have some good experiences, but it's still really distressing. Or it just feels too overwhelming to even try that right now because it has been a long-standing pattern. It has impacted you deeply. Then consider deeper work. The way EMDR works is to literally stimulate different parts of the body that work with the brain to help undo the charge that's inside of you with the guilt and the message and the way that that is coming across to the core of who you are. When I mentioned before guilt or shame, shame is that message about who you are. And I think of shame also as not just a message of like, I'm bad, but a covering, a weight, like a covering of, I want to say sludge, but it's like I feel like this heavy blanket when I feel shame. It's not even just that I feel bad about who I am or that I am bad. It's like I am disgusting. I don't deserve space on this earth. I want to crawl into a hole. We all have different responses to shame. I'm just sharing kind of how that has felt for me. And that can be pretty overwhelming. EMDR in my life was really powerful in undoing a shame response that was also very, uh, that also produced a lot of anxiety and fear. I literally could feel like my nerves were going to just bing right outside my body. It was not pleasant at all in certain relational dynamics, especially if I felt like someone else came across with such authority and power and they were trying to tell me a message about who I am or what I'm responsible for that I wasn't. Just I could feel it in my body, and that has shifted traumatically through EMDR and through other experiences in life. I call them growth experiences, and there's a term, Bruce Ecker does memory reconsolidation for all the geeks out there that wanna know, but, corrective emotional experiences, that's when we have emotionally connected experiences, when we're feeling the emotion, but our brain and our body get to have a different experience that reshapes our connection to those core beliefs about who we are and how the world operates. I think of it also as a way of retraining the safety signals in our brain. That fear is a message that I'm not okay, that I can't make it through. That safety signal is off kilter. It's a little high. When anxiety is highly present, safety signals are kind of blaring when they don't need to be, right? When it's not helpful for us at that time. Learning different ways to work with the body can help us begin to live from a different place so that when we need to say no, when we need to set limits, we're more able to do it. Now, this is an area that I have struggled with significantly. Part of my story includes date rape and different experiences of manipulation, coercion. And I struggled with what someone else would think or feel if I was really firm with my no, which actually kept me in dangerous positions and not protecting myself when I needed to. I don't feel guilt or shame about that, but that's more that awareness and acknowledging what was happening for me so that I could attend to that and grow. That's been part of my growth journey and my healing journey. I hope some of what I've shared today is helpful and provides perspective or insight that helps you identify what's going on for you, that awareness, so that you can acknowledge it and attend to it. And then the next step is activation, choosing the steps. That's could be therapy, could be EMDR or something else, could be emotionally focused therapy models, neurobiology and somatic experiencing. All of those shift things in our brain and our body. Could be the act of saying no, the thought process of noticing within ourselves that we said no, we were okay. Even if someone was disappointed with us and they might be hurt or they start to think something, we don't take ownership for what they're feeling and thinking. We stand true in what we need to do so that we have capacity to give in the future. That is also an activation step, part of that growth process. So, again, I hope this is helpful. If you would like further guidance or opportunities for growth experiences that help you undo the shame, the messages, the guilt, the things that keep you from setting healthy limits or filling the capacity, like refilling your own capacity because it's difficult to care for yourself, for example, I invite you to join us in Growing You, the membership community. If you'd like some support and just connecting with God and practicing hearing from God as you're noticing the patterns, the thoughts, and the feelings, I highly recommend the tool Unleash Heart and Soul Care Sheets. You can find that on my website, joleneunderwood.com/unleash. And Growing You is /growing hyphen you. And that's the membership community. But Unleash Sheets is a tool that helps you, it provides a structure to go through what's happening. That might be the pattern, that might be noticing this guilt coming up, etc. The thoughts that you're having, those feelings, bringing it before God, and there's several other steps. It comes with several teaching videos where I walk you through those steps in more detail so that you can apply it in ways that are really helpful for you and give you an opportunity to engage in a process that helps you do that, move from awareness to acknowledging and attending and activation. If you have questions, please let me know, and I look forward to hearing from you.